There's a hidden battlefield most people never speak about. It doesn't leave bruises, It doesn't draw blood, but it kills character, slowly. This battlefield is the place we enter the moment we start living for applause. Imagine it, a crowded arena of voices, each screaming louder than the last. Not for survival. Not for truth. But for recognition. Everyone waving, posting, yelling, dancing, not for purpose, but for permission to matter. You feel it too, don't you? That itch to be noticed. The quiet panic when you're overlooked. The moment your success feels less valuable if it's not seen by someone else. That's the first dangerous place, the crowd, the place where everyone seeks validation. It seduces you with the promise of fame, respect, likes, love, but at a cost you don't see until it's too late. Because the louder you scream to be noticed, the more invisible you become to yourself. Here's the trap. You begin shaping your behavior around what earns claps, You bend your principles for approval, You perform over and over until your identity becomes a costume. You chase applause, then you need it, then you depend on it, and when it disappears, you do too. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said it best. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That line should be tattooed on the mind of every builder, every artist, every dreamer. Why? Because true growth begins where applause ends. When you stop trying to be understood, you become dangerous, because you're no longer controlled. You're no longer performing, You're finally free. The modern world is a trap of validation. We refresh. We scroll. We compare, and slowly, without realizing it, we start playing for the crowd. We become digital gladiators. But here's the truth, the crowd is never loyal, The moment you stop entertaining them, they move on, 1 week you're trending. The next, forgotten. A man who lives for applause must die when it stops. But the one who builds in silence, the one who chooses principle over popularity, he cannot be owned. He builds things that last, because they weren't built for the crowd. Ask yourself, would you still do it if no one clapped? Would you still build it if no one noticed? Would you still be proud of it if no one shared it? If the answer is yes, you are already free, If the answer is no, you've stepped into the crowd. And you need to step out. Now. Because the deeper you go, the harder it is to return. Let others chase attention, Let others beg for validation, Let others become hollow from applause. You. Be the one who walks off the stage, Who disappears into the silence, Who returns only with something real. There is a table some people never leave. It looks harmless. Casual. Maybe even entertaining. A few people sit around, laughing, They sip coffee or wine, Their words sound like stories, but underneath, they're knives. This is the gossip table, the second dangerous place. It's not made of wood or marble, It's made of insecurity, envy, and smallness, And every conversation around it steals something from your soul. You don't even have to speak to be stained by it. Just being there, nodding, listening, laughing along, you become part of it. The Stoic Seneca warned. Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. But when you linger in circles that feast on the failures of others, you starve your own growth. Gossip is the trade of the spiritually bankrupt. It's the currency of people who can't face their own reflection. Think about the last time you were around it. Someone's reputation was sliced apart. Someone's private pain was turned into public amusement. And someone, maybe even you, sat silently and let it happen. Here's the problem, even silence becomes complicity. And the more you sit at that table, the more you normalize it, Until, one day, you speak the same way, You think the same way, And without knowing it, you've traded your strength for their weakness. A real Stoic, a real warrior of character, has no appetite for gossip. He doesn't need others to be smaller for him to feel big, He doesn't waste breath dissecting strangers, He builds, in silence, He sharpens his words for truth, not for entertainment. If you ever feel the urge to speak about someone not in the room, pause. Ask yourself, would I say this to their face? Would this strengthen me or weaken me? Does this serve anyone, or is it just poison dressed as conversation? And if the answer isn't growth, walk away. You don't need to storm out, You don't need to shame them, You just leave the table. Because staying there costs more than it's worth. Let them talk. Let them feast on each other. You eat elsewhere, da. You build elsewhere, da. You speak life, not decay. In a world obsessed with commentary, be the one who guards his tongue like a weapon. Because once you lose control of your words, you've already lost control of your mind. There's a prison with no bars, no guards, no visible chains, da. But it holds more people captive than any dungeon in history, da. You won't find it on any map, because it lives inside your mind. This is the prison of grudges. It begins with a wound, da. Someone lies, betrays, abandons, da. The moment is real. The pain, undeniable, da. But instead of healing, you hold on to it. You feed it, da. Rehearse it, da. Replay it like a looped film, hoping it'll hurt them the way it hurt you. But here's the truth, they don't feel it anymore, you do. Stoic wisdom doesn't ask you to forget betrayal, da. It doesn't deny injustice. What it teaches is that you do not have to live there. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." To stay angry is to drink the poison and expect them to suffer. To relive the betrayal is to tear the wound open again and again. And slowly, your peace begins to rot, da. You stop trusting, da. You stop moving forward, da. You become the warden of your own mental prison. You tell yourself you can't forgive because they don't deserve it. But Stoicism flips the script. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. You forgive not to free them, but to free yourself from the burden of carrying them in your soul. To keep dragging resentment is to carry a corpse on your back. And no one moves fast with that kind of weight. Let it go. Burn the mental bridge that leads back to that moment. Not because you're weak, but because you are finally strong enough to choose peace. That is not surrender, da. That is sovereignty. Ask yourself now. Asterisk who still lives rent-free in your mind? Asterisk who still controls your mood, months, years, even decades later? Asterisk what would your life look like if you finally let go? Some people wait for closure, da. But closure doesn't come from them, da. It comes the moment you decide to stop bleeding for someone who isn't even holding the knife anymore. Let karma speak in silence, da. Let nature restore its balance, da. You have more important things to build. Forgive. Not because they asked. Not because they're sorry, da. But because your future demands it. And as you walk away from that mental cell, you'll feel it, the air returning to your lungs, your vision sharpening, your soul coming home. There's a place you visit daily without even realizing, da. It doesn't look dangerous. In fact, it looks beautiful, shiny, filtered, curated, da. But step too far inside, and it will slowly erase everything that makes you, you. This is the hall of comparison. You enter through a scroll, da. A glance, da. A thought, da. You see their success, their lifestyle, their perfect moment, and suddenly, your life feels dull. You were fine 5 seconds ago, da. But now, you're behind, da. You're not enough, da. You feel small, and worse, invisible. This isn't just about social media, da. This is about what happens inside you when you measure your worth with someone else's ruler. You compare salaries, da. Bodies, da. Houses, da. Happiness, da. And slowly, without realizing, you abandon your own path, chasing shadows that were never yours to follow. Stoic wisdom warns of this trap. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig." In other words, stop looking outward, da. Start digging inward, da. Because you'll never find peace in someone else's timeline. When you compare yourself to others, you undervalue your own progress. Confuse noise with meaning. And worst of all, delay your purpose. You were never meant to be a copy, da. You were designed for depth, da. Comparison keeps you shallow. The Stoic doesn't chase applause, da. He chases alignment with his values, his calling, his growth. Here's the paradox: every second you spend watching their life is a second stolen from building yours. So when that voice whispers, "They're ahead of you. They're happier. They're better," answer it with stillness, da. Answer it with, "I am not in their race." Because there is no race, da. There is only your road. And the moment you stop looking sideways, you'll start moving forward again. Ask yourself now. How many dreams have I delayed just because someone else got there first? How much peace have I lost chasing what doesn't even fit my soul? It's time to exit the hall. Walk past the mirrors that distort. Close the door behind you, da. And return to the only competition that ever mattered, the person you were yesterday. There's a dangerous place that wears many masks. It might look like a high-paying job, a room full of applause, or a conversation where your voice trembles, not from fear, but from the need to be heard. This is the arena of ego, the place where proving yourself becomes your full-time job. You don't walk into this arena, you drift into it, one small insecurity at a time. At first, it feels harmless, you just want to be respected, you want to be seen. But then you start chasing validation instead of values, You shape your days around approval, not purpose, And before you know it, you've become a performer in someone else's show. The Stoics warned us about this centuries ago. Epictetus said, "If you seek the admiration of others, you have made yourself their slave." When your worth depends on applause, you become addicted to attention, You perform instead of live, You explain instead of simply exist. And that's not strength, That's captivity. Ask yourself this. How often do you overthink a post, a project, a conversation, just to look good? How much of your energy goes into proving instead of building? The Stoic doesn't need to be loud. His life speaks for itself. Here's the truth. You don't need to prove anything, The fact that you exist, the fact that you wake up and continue, that you try, that you grow, that you say no when it would be easier to say yes, that's proof enough. The stronger you become internally, the less you need to explain externally. You don't need a crowd to confirm your worth, You just need clarity on what matters to you. So exit the arena, Walk out while you still can, Leave behind the need to perform, And reclaim your freedom from approval. Because the greatest proof of strength is the silence of someone who no longer needs to prove. There's something cruel about these 5 places we've explored. They don't break you with thunder, They don't collapse your world overnight. They rot you, silently. Like a leak in a ship's hull, slow and unseen, Until one day, you're drowning, and you don't even remember when you let the water in. The place of constant validation? It drained your independence, You gave away your power for a few likes, a few claps, a few empty nods. The gossip hall? It stole your integrity, You let yourself be entertained by other people's pain, and in doing so, you weakened your own spine. The mental prison of grudges? It turned your past into your prison. You fed poison to your mind daily, expecting others to suffer. The mirror of endless comparison? It shattered your sense of self, You were so busy measuring someone else's highlight reel that you forgot you were never in the same race. And the arena of ego? It convinced you to act instead of live, To be loud instead of clear, To chase applause instead of truth. You may still look strong, You may still look successful, But inside, if you live in any of these places, you're being hollowed out. And that hollowness? That's the silent rot. It doesn't show up in a day, It shows up when you no longer recognize yourself. So what do? You return to what the Stoics always taught. Live by principle. Not performance, Pursue clarity. Not applause, Seek silence. Not noise, Choose peace. Not drama. Walk away from these places, and don't look back. You won't need to announce it, You don't need to post about it, Just leave. Because your life is not a public spectacle, It's a private journey toward strength, virtue, and inner peace. And that journey begins when you no longer allow these places to define who you are. You are not your likes, You are not your followers, You are not your grudges, your comparisons, or your applause. You are what you practice, You are what you master, You are what you refuse to return to. So if you're ready, burn the maps to these places. Let them vanish. And rebuild your life on the only foundation that ever mattered. Your own discipline, Your own values, Your own peace.